Hey guys, I'm Naya and welcome back to the channel. For today's video, I decided to talk about the set Magnificent Mavens. Since yesterday the entire set got revealed, we know everything that's going to be in it and it's looking like one of the best sets of the year. I honestly didn't expect to see that many reprints, seeing as how the set was going to be focused on Sky Striker, Mayakashi, Witchcrafter, also Sword Soul, but now they actually decided to include a huge pile of very good reprints. So we're going to do a top 10 cards from the set. Before we begin, I just want to shout out my patrons: Dudley Reiner, Crimson, Consular, 10, Nude Banner, Jonah Rodriguez, Ariel Kersey, and Voik Air. I'm very much grateful for you guys' support. And if any of you want to support me on Patreon, you can always find the link in the description below. Alright, so this set, before we actually get into the top 10 cards, I also wanted to mention the Sky Striker support. Now we're not going to be going over every single card, but I do think the support is really nice. You get the Surgical Striker, which is a very cool name, and the effect is nice. Like, I like the effect a lot. I think it's very cool. But the best card would probably be the Linkage, since it does give you another monster on the field, and the Sky Striker deck does struggle with that sometimes. There's also the Aileron. Not sure if that's how you pronounce it, probably not. But it seems like the weakest one out of all of them, but it's still Sky Striker support, so really nothing wrong with that. So those are a couple cards that I feel like are very cool to pick up if you're playing Sky Striker. I didn't include them in the top 10 cards just because there's so many cards in this set that we need to talk about. And the next thing I wanted to go over is the fact that a lot of cards that were expensive before received accessible printings right now. You know, just looking at cards like the Doomdozer, Vampire's Curse, there's the Beautiful, probably not the pronunciation, Princess. We are getting the Traptrix Sarah, which started going up in value again with the Traptrix structure deck being announced. There's also cards like, I don't know, Jagame Changeover, Secret Village. Like, they're accessible if you want them as commons. The Jagame Changeover only a super rare. The Secret Village as well. Like, you have those cards that have like maybe one printing of a higher foiling, and immediately they are more expensive. So it's actually just cool to see an accessible foil printing. You know, we are getting cards like Pendulum Call, which, like, that's really cool to get. Dark Calling, we're getting the Draco back. We're also getting Blackout, which is like one of the most wanted cards to have a foil printing by the community. And overall, just looking at the reprints alone when it comes to the ones that dropped in price and the ones that are getting a rarity upgrade, the entire set just seems amazing. But on top of it, they decided to release a bunch of reprints, which are also competitively very viable. So we are going to go over all of the top 10 cards right now, and starting off is going to be also some of the new cards from the set, which is the Ishizu cards, or the Ishizu support as we all like to call them. So the Ishizu support is for the Tearlament deck, and what it grants the deck is you get 4 monsters. 2 of them can be special summoned by basically sending to the graveyard the other 2, and the other 2, if they are sent from the hand or deck to the graveyard, they're able to send the top 5 cards of each player's decks to the graveyard. So again, it's a milling effect for Tearlament, or just taking resources away from your opponent. So overall, it's incredible support. There's trap cards as well, and they all work together with each other, and it's amazing. It's one of those engines that people are sort of fearing a bit how the format is going to develop with them in it, because they're going to boost Tearlament to such high proportions. Now the next one is actually going to be Chaos Hunter. Looking at Chaos Hunter and its printings, it doesn't really have accessible, nice foil printings. They're either expensive, or it's usually common, or something in such a kind of weird rarity. But it did also go up in price because people are expecting to play it to counter the Bestial cards and the Shatrila Fenrir, which makes a lot of sense. So it's cool for you to pick up your copies, but naturally the price started to go up when everybody started buying them out. And now this is just an accessible foil reprint for a staple card to have in your side deck binder. So I think it's worthy of it being on this list. The next card on this list is also going to be one with three printings, but all of them became expensive, and it's totally awesome. I remember when I got the rare reprint in one of the gold sets, and it wasn't expensive at all. It was just a rare, and then it just started to go up in price. Everybody started playing Sprite. Now it does seem a bit late with Ronin Toadi now gone and a lot of decks opting out of the Totally Awesome play, but still, it's a very welcome reprint. And that's actually a great segue to the next card on this list, which is the Blackluster Soldier Link. Now, we all know of the meme where it just went up in price, never went down, and then it got an OT printing. So it's not an accessible reprint. Nobody could really get their hands on it. It still kept the very high price tag, and the OT isn't any better. So this is the first reprint which is actually going to be accessible. I wanted to include it on this list, even though it's not as competitively viable, just because of it, because it's been such a long time coming, and it's just so cool to see, honestly. And yeah, the next one is also going to be a link, and it's Apollousa. Now, we received its alternate artwork, which only had a gold rare printing. So if you're not really into the gold rares, especially from the last two gold sets, so the Maximum Gold and the Maximum Gold El Dorado, it's kind of like the foilings were very messed up, and just, yeah, messed up is like the best expression. So if you're not really into that, now you can pick up an Ultra printing of Apollousa, and the one with the original art is also an Ultra, actually, was reprinted, and it looks really, really good. So it's just cool to see you have two different options of playing an Ultra Apollousa that's going to be accessible with different artworks. So Apollousa being very useful in the meta right now, and also being a very, very generic monster, it's just nice to have a lot of accessible printings of it for every single player to be able to pick it up. Now, the next one is going to be Lightning Storm. So we are moving to a couple of spell cards as well, because we are getting the Lightning Storm reprint. It got a couple reprints in the past. It never became as cheap as we would maybe want the accessible staples to be, but I think they are doing a great job with these reprint sets. And like I said, I didn't really expect it to happen. Lightning Storm is a very strong card. I think it has a ton of application, especially since Flunder became a thing. It's just such a strong card against Flunder, against any back row deck that might go up in popularity moving to the next format. People don't really respect it that much anymore, I think, and it's just so nice if you're going up against a board that does put up a negate, because you know for a fact it's going to trade with it. So if you have enough going second cards, it's really nice in that regard as well. Or if you maybe hand trapped your opponent before, so you can just easily play Lightning Storm on a board that's kind of subpar anyway. It's pretty much a staple to own, I think. And the next one as well, there's Triple Tactics Talent. Now, this card might seem a bit more specific. It's very format reliant. It doesn't seem like it's great in every single point in time, especially a couple formats we've had when there was like this huge gap between people deciding to play hand traps or board breakers. So when you're in a format like that and talents isn't really that useful, it's just kind of weird, and it might sit the format out, but it's still a staple, again, like Lightning Storm, that I think you should own because it's getting cheaper and cheaper. Talents is nice. I like Talents a lot, and I think it's just cool to own, especially now. The next one is Skill Drain. So we have a couple trap cards, and Skill Drain was just also a meme at this point, seeing as how many printings it had, and none of them were cheap. You know, when it came back to 3, it was almost inevitable for it to go up in price, and it also didn't really have any kind of like just cheap foil printings. So just to have an ultra rare Skill Drain right now, I think means a lot. Even though you're not going to be playing it in every single strategy, it's still a very strong going first card, and you can side it if you want to. You can play it, main it in a trap deck, and it's just, again, one of those staples. And the next one, similarly to something like Lightning Storm, a lot of arguments go for this card as well, and it's evenly matched. I think it's very strong in this current format. Boards don't really put up negates. Before, Totally Awesome was everywhere to be seen, but right now, like I said, some people stray away from that. So overall, when there's a huge board presence but not a lot of negates, your deck is going to struggle against evenly a lot, and I think it's very, very useful. It's also a bit too expensive before the reprint, so it's just a nice card to own. I think a lot of people will play it moving forward. I'm a big fan of the card, and it's just really, really nice to see it go down in price. And the last one is going to be Infinite Impermanence. It received a couple reprints in the last couple of years, but it never became cheap. It's not like it's a $3 card that you can just easily pick up, and it was in a structure deck, and we've seen that happen. So when structure decks drop with very strong cards in them, you should probably pick up the cards immediately, or just pick up a structure deck, because it's going to go up in value in no time, because those cards alone are worth as much as the structure deck after some time. And Impermanence is one of those cases. It's so staple and so generic that you can easily play it in your hand trap lineup in almost every single format and know you're going to do well with it and it's going to prove useful to you. So those would be the top 10 cards, but there are so many cards we could put as honorable mentions. So just quickly going over those as well. We get cards like Instant Fusion, Harpies, Change of Heart. We're getting Cat Shark, also Millennium Eyes. There's the Goes Match reprint. Again, just a cool foil accessible printing. Shadow Imprisoning Mirror. There's Non-Fusion Area, which only had like old commons. And we're getting A Hero Lives in a foil printing. That's just nice and cheap and there for you to pick up easily. Yatagarasu. Things for specific archetypes, you know, Kepler for DDD, which I'm sure every single DDD player is just so happy right now. Therian, Atignister. There are so many archetypes receiving foil printings for their cards, and it's very wholesome to see. It feels like a very satisfying set to round off the year. I don't think I have any big issues with it. I don't think there's any issue, actually. Like, it just seems very solid. Like, we're always going to find some kind of reprints probably that we're going to be like, oh, why isn't it in here, you know? But we are getting the Battles of Legend, the Crystal set soon. So there's a couple reprints that might be in there. And just for this set, I think we can all be very, very grateful as to how many staples became so easy to pick up with the release of Magnificent Mavens, and I'm looking forward to the set. Let me know what you're looking forward to the most out of it, and if you liked the video, of course like it, sub to the channel, check out all of the social media, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace!